Most people think a high-vibrational woman is just someone who meditates and drinks green smoothies. But Carl Jung discovered something far more powerful. He called it the Integrated Anima, the Individuated Woman. And what he found terrified him. Because in a society built on superficiality and performance, a woman who has mastered her psychology doesn't just stand out. She threatens the entire unconscious system. Today, I'm revealing the 3 rare signs Jung identified that show a woman has achieved this state, and why her mere presence triggers deep insecurity in others before she even speaks a word. Here's what most people don't understand. We live in a world of performance. Every day, people wake up and put on what Jung called the persona, the mask we wear to be acceptable to society. We perform our roles: the good daughter, the agreeable co-worker, the pleasant girlfriend, the nurturing mother. We smile when we're angry, we agree when we disagree, we shrink when we want to expand. This isn't conscious deception, it's survival. But the high-vibrational woman has stopped performing. Not because she's rebellious or trying to make a statement. She stopped because she discovered something Jung spent decades helping his patients understand. The performance was killing her authentic self. Jung called this state the mana personality. Mana is an ancient Polynesian word meaning spiritual power or life force. A mana personality is someone who has retrieved their energy from external validation. Think about how much energy you spend every day seeking approval, crafting the perfect response to avoid conflict, monitoring your tone so you don't seem too aggressive, questioning your own perceptions because someone else seems more confident. All of that is your life force draining into other people's cups. The high-vibrational woman has pulled that energy back into herself. She has become sovereign. But here's where it gets intense. To become sovereign, Jung discovered, you must face what he called the shadow. The shadow is every part of yourself you've been taught is unacceptable. Your anger, your selfishness, your capacity for cruelty, your sexual desires, your ambition, your rage at injustice. Society taught you to bury these qualities deep in your unconscious. Nice girls don't get angry. Good women don't prioritize themselves. Feminine women don't compete. So you lock those parts away. But Jung discovered something terrifying. What you refuse to acknowledge doesn't disappear. It grows in the dark. It runs your life from behind the scenes. The high-vibrational woman did what most people never do. She turned around and looked directly at her shadow. She admitted she contains every human quality, light and dark, good and evil, generous and selfish. This is why she's rare. Most people would rather die than face their own darkness. She chose to integrate it instead. Now let me show you the 3 signs Jung identified in these rare women. To illustrate each one, I'm going to walk you through narrative examples based on the clinical dynamics Jung observed. These aren't just abstract theories. They are composite sketches of the observable patterns he documented across decades of working with women who had achieved psychological integration. The first sign is the absence of projection. She is a mirror. Consider a case profile Jung might have encountered in 1926. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah came to analysis because she kept ending up in impossible situations at work. Her colleagues would accuse her of things she never did. Her boss interpreted her emails as aggressive when she intended them as neutral. Friends would suddenly turn cold and claim she had insulted them, even though Sarah had no memory of saying anything offensive. Sarah thought she was going crazy, but Jung recognized what was happening immediately. Sarah wasn't projecting her issues onto anyone, and because she owned her shadow, she didn't accept other people's projections either. Let me explain what projection is. When someone hasn't integrated their shadow, they unconsciously throw their unacceptable qualities onto other people. The man who cheats accuses his faithful wife of being unfaithful. The manipulative person sees manipulation everywhere. The angry person claims everyone else has anger issues. This is projection. It's how the unconscious mind protects the ego from seeing its own darkness. But Sarah had done her shadow work. She knew her own capacity for aggression, manipulation, and selfishness. Because she had made peace with these qualities in herself, she could see them clearly in others, without judgment. And here's where it gets dangerous for everyone around her. When someone tried to project their issues onto Sarah, she didn't absorb it. She didn't defend. She didn't argue. She simply didn't accept the projection. She acted as a clear mirror, reflecting back exactly what the other person was putting out. This made people incredibly uncomfortable. Think about what happens when you're used to people absorbing your projections. You accuse someone of being mean, and they apologize and try to be nicer. You claim someone is judging you, and they reassure you they aren't. Your projection worked. You feel better. But when you project onto someone who has integrated their shadow, something different happens. They look at you calmly. They don't get defensive. They don't rush to reassure you. They might say something like, "I hear that you're experiencing me as aggressive, but that's not my intention or my energy." They hand your projection back to you. This is terrifying for the unconscious mind, because now you're forced to look at what you just projected. You're forced to consider that maybe the aggression you're sensing is your own. Maybe the judgment you're feeling is coming from inside you. The high-vibrational woman cannot be gaslighted. Empaths aren't broken. They're alchemists in progress. The alchemist's path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com. This is crucial because she knows her own shadow intimately. She can distinguish between her own darkness and someone else's attempt to convince her she's the problem. When someone tries to twist reality, when someone tries to make her doubt her perceptions, she doesn't budge. Not because she's stubborn, because she trusts her own inner knowing more than she fears external disapproval. The second sign is the Integrated Animus. The sacred number Jung taught that every woman possesses an inner masculine energy he called the Animus. This isn't about gender roles or stereotypes. The Animus represents clarity, boundaries, logic, and the sword that cuts through confusion. In most women, the Animus remains unconscious and undeveloped. Why? Because society punishes women for expressing masculine energy. We call them bossy, difficult, aggressive, cold, bitches. So women learn to keep their animus hidden. They develop what Jung called a negative animus, a hostile inner masculine voice that attacks them from the inside. That voice that tells you you're not good enough, that you should have done better, that you're stupid for making that mistake. That's an undeveloped negative animus. But the high-vibrational woman has integrated her animus consciously. She has befriended her inner masculine. She can access clarity when needed. She can set boundaries without guilt. She can say no without explaining herself. She can cut through emotional fog with simple truth. There is a classic case dynamic from the 1930s that exemplifies this perfectly. Let's look at the story of Elena. Elena came from a wealthy family where women were expected to be accommodating at all times. Elena had spent her entire life being nice, agreeing to things she didn't want, accepting treatment she found unacceptable, always explaining, always softening, always apologizing. Then Elena's husband had an affair, and something in her snapped, not into rage, into clarity. Elena didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't try to understand or fix it. She simply said, "I'm leaving." Her family was horrified. Her friends told her she was being too harsh. Her mother said she should forgive him. But Elena had accessed her integrated animus. She could see the situation with perfect clarity. This man had betrayed her. She deserved better. She was choosing herself. No explanation needed. No justification required. Just a clean, clear boundary. This is what Jung called the sword of truth. The high-vibrational woman is not nice in the people-pleasing sense. She is kind, but she is also fierce. She can hold compassion for someone's struggle while simultaneously refusing to accept their bad behavior. She doesn't confuse empathy with tolerance of mistreatment. To weak men and unconscious people, this makes her seem dangerous because she cannot be controlled. She cannot be manipulated with guilt. She cannot be charmed into accepting less than she deserves. Nice girls can be convinced to ignore their needs. High-vibrational women cannot. Nice girls apologize for existing. High-vibrational women apologize when they've actually done something wrong and not a moment before. Nice girls explain their boundaries hoping for permission. High-vibrational women state their boundaries and let others deal with their own reactions. This isn't cruelty. This is what Jung called psychological maturity. When a woman integrates her animus, she stops abandoning herself to keep others comfortable. And in a world that has built entire systems on women's self-abandonment, this is revolutionary. The third sign is emotional alchemy. She is a container. Most people have heard the term empath, someone who feels other people's emotions intensely. But Jung discovered something crucial. There's a massive difference between an unhealed empath and an integrated one. The unhealed empath absorbs emotions like a sponge absorbs water. She walks into a room and immediately feels heavy because someone in that room is depressed. She talks to a friend and leaves feeling drained because she absorbed their anxiety. She cannot distinguish between her own emotions and the emotional states she's picking up from her environment. This isn't a gift. It's an unintegrated sensitivity. But the high-vibrational woman has learned emotional alchemy. She doesn't just absorb emotions, she transmutes them. We see this clearly in the example of Marie, a field nurse during World War I. In this scenario, Marie came to Jung in 1921, suffering from what we might now call compassion fatigue. She had spent years absorbing the pain, fear, and trauma of dying soldiers. She felt like she was drowning in other people's suffering. Jung taught Marie the concept of being a container. A container doesn't reject the contents poured into it, but a container also doesn't become the contents. A cup can hold water without becoming water. A vase can hold flowers without becoming flowers. Marie learned to be present with others' pain, without absorbing it into her own nervous system. She learned to witness suffering with compassion, while maintaining her own energetic sovereignty. She could sit with a dying man, hold space for his fear, and walk away still centered in her own being. This is what Jung meant by the container. The high-vibrational woman can sit in the fire of high-conflict situations and remain calm, not because she's suppressing her emotions, because she has developed the psychological capacity to hold intense emotional energy without being consumed by it. Modern neuroscience has validated this. Dr. Stephen Porges' research on the polyvagal theory shows that a regulated nervous system can help regulate other nervous systems. This is called co-regulation. When you're in a room with someone who is anxious, you have two choices. You can match their anxiety and escalate the situation, or you can maintain your own regulation and help calm them down. The high-vibrational woman has trained her nervous system to remain in ventral vagal state, the state of safety and social engagement, even when others around her are dysregulated. She doesn't do this by suppressing her emotions. She does it by processing her emotions in real time, by maintaining awareness of what's hers and what isn't, and by choosing not to abandon herself to match someone else's energy. But here's the most important part. She validates her own reality. She doesn't need external agreement to know what is true. If she feels uncomfortable in a situation, she trusts that feeling even if everyone else seems fine. If she perceives tension in a conversation, she doesn't gaslight herself just because others are pretending everything is okay. She has learned what Jung called trusting the unconscious. Her intuition speaks. She listens. She doesn't need permission from others to believe her own perceptions. Now we need to talk about the cost of this vibration. Because Jung was honest about this, the high-vibrational woman often walks a lonely path, at least initially. As she vibrates higher, she naturally sheds people who were attached to her smallness. Friends who loved her when she was a people-pleaser suddenly find her difficult now that she has boundaries. Family members who relied on her emotional labor accuse her of being selfish when she prioritizes herself. Romantic partners who enjoyed her accommodation call her high maintenance when she asks for her needs to be met. This is the loneliness Jung documented, not because she's doing anything wrong, because she has outgrown the relationships that required her to stay small. Society tries to humble these women. It calls them too much, too sensitive, too intense, too demanding, too selfish. These labels are weapons designed to push women back into performance mode, back into the persona, back into unconsciousness. Jung observed that high-vibrational women face a consistent social pattern. People either love them or hate them. There's rarely a middle ground. Those who are conscious, those who are doing their own inner work, those who have integrated their own shadows, recognize these women immediately and feel safe around them. But those who are unconscious, those who are still performing, those who are running from their shadows, feel threatened by these women's presence. They can't explain why. They just know this woman makes them uncomfortable. That discomfort is the unconscious mind, recognizing that its defense mechanisms won't work on her. Its projections won't stick. Its manipulations won't land. Its guilt trips won't work. The unconscious mind feels exposed and vulnerable, so it attacks. It gossips. It excludes. It punishes. But here's Jung's ultimate lesson. This isn't arrogance. This is wholeness. The loneliness is actually solitude and sovereignty. There's a crucial difference. Loneliness is a painful state of disconnection. Solitude is a powerful state of self-sufficiency. The high-vibrational woman isn't lonely because she's been rejected. She's in solitude because she has higher standards for who gets access to her energy. She has learned that being alone is better than being in relationships that require her to betray herself. And eventually, she discovers something beautiful. As she maintains her vibration, she attracts a different caliber of people. She attracts other integrated individuals, people who meet her at her level instead of asking her to carry them, people who appreciate her clarity instead of punishing her for it, people who celebrate her boundaries instead of testing them, people who match her depth instead of asking her to stay shallow. This is what Jung called finding your soul tribe. Not people who agree with everything you say, but people who can engage with you authentically without needing you to perform or pretend. Let me tell you what this freedom actually feels like. The high-vibrational woman wakes up and doesn't check how everyone else is feeling before deciding how she's allowed to feel. She doesn't monitor the room before speaking her truth. She doesn't apologize for taking up space. She doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. She doesn't explain her boundaries. She doesn't justify her needs. She doesn't perform gratitude for the bare minimum. She doesn't accept breadcrumbs and call it a feast. She doesn't confuse someone's potential with their actual behavior. She doesn't stay in situations that diminish her, hoping they'll eventually improve. She walks through the world with what Jung called psychological sovereignty. She belongs to herself first, not in a selfish way, in a sacred way, because she understands that she cannot pour from an empty cup. She cannot love others well if she's abandoned herself. She cannot be of service if she's running on fumes. So she fills her own cup first. She honors her own needs. She protects her own energy. And from that place of fullness, she gives to others, not from obligation, from overflow. This is the frequency shift Jung documented. The high-vibrational woman has moved from external validation to internal validation, from performance to presence, from people-pleasing to authenticity, from fear of rejection to commitment to self, from drowning in others' emotions to alchemizing emotional energy, from unconscious absorption to conscious choice. If you recognize these three signs in yourself, I need you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not selfish. You are not difficult. You are not intimidating. You are waking up. You are integrating. You are becoming whole. And yes, this process can feel lonely. Yes, you will lose relationships. Yes, people will misunderstand you. Yes, society will try to humble you back into performance mode. But Jung's research showed that women who stay committed to their integration eventually experience something extraordinary. They stop seeking external validation because they've developed unshakable internal validation. They stop fearing loneliness because they've discovered the power of solitude. They stop trying to convince others of their worth because they know their worth is inherent. They stop performing and start being. And that authentic being attracts everything they've been searching for, not by chasing it, by embodying it. If you're ready to embrace your shadow and own your power, hit that like button and subscribe for more psychological insights that reveal what Jung discovered about human consciousness. Drop a comment and tell me which of these three signs resonates with you most. Are you the mirror who reflects others' projections back? Are you the woman who has integrated her animus and found her sacred no? Or are you the container who transmutes emotional energy without being consumed? In The Alchemist's Path, perception training for empaths, you'll turn overwhelm into wisdom with practical drills, Jung-inspired boundaries, and step-by-step perception training. This guide includes 3 exclusive chapter videos to deepen each lesson. Written by Surreal Mind, 236 pages, beautifully designed 8.5 by 11 downloadable ebook, in stock now. Start your training today. Feel deeply while thinking clearly. Get The Alchemist's Path at thesurrealmind.com.